Do home ozone treatments really work? I mean, does it even make sense to do stuff like drink ozonated water or put ozone up your bum or up your vajayjay? I mean, doesn't it make so much more sense to just go to your doctor and do a series of ozone IVs? I mean, when you go to your doctor, you get the ozone directly into your bloodstream, and what could be more powerful and more effective than that, right? So many people have a hard time imagining that home ozone treatments could be as powerful and as effective as ozone IVs. So if you believe that really nothing beats ozone IVs and they're the only valid ozone treatment, then I'm here to prove you wrong. I'm Paula, the crazy ozone lady from thepowerofozone.com, and I have done hundreds of ozone IVs on myself. I have performed ozone IVs on my patients. I even wrote a book about ozone IVs, namely DIV, direct intravenous ozone administration. And I've also spent hundreds of hours doing various types of home ozone treatments. And I'm here to tell you that some of the most powerful, the most life-changing results that I have witnessed was with things like drinking ozonated water, vaginal insufflations, and ozone saunas. So let me give you a few examples from my life. So in 2018, I went through a health crisis that made me feel like a walking zombie. I literally felt like I was dying. I couldn't tell exactly what I was dying from and why I would die, but I just felt like my body was simply shutting down. Now, looking back and after doing much more research and many more experiments on myself, and after my recent experience from 2021 and 2022, I realized that already in 2018 I must have had a damaged liver, probably because of a high consumption of high vitamin A foods. So it looks like I have poisoned myself already back then with vitamin A. So this is at least my current understanding of what happened. But the result was that I was really sick as a dog. I was losing weight uncontrollably. I was extremely weak. My memory was shot. I literally felt like I was an Alzheimer patient. And I was really, really sick. I was essentially non-functional. And for some time I was so weak that I was actually scared to do ozone. But one day I decided to try it anyway. So I prepared some ozonated water and drank 2 big glasses of it. And what happened next was really one of the most astounding transformations I had ever experienced in my life. So immediately after I drank the water, I started feeling nauseous, shaky. I was feeling like I would lose consciousness, so I had to hold myself against the kitchen counter in order to not collapse on the floor. And I felt like my eyes were turning back into my head. So I was doing something like that. And at the same time, I felt unbearable chills all over my body. I wanted to throw up and I kept spitting out saliva. And all this lasted maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And when it passed, I felt completely transformed. I had energy, I could think, I felt motivated, I felt clear in my head. I basically felt like a normal human being, not like a brain-dead zombie. And so this positive effect lasted around 5 to 6 hours until I ate something later in the day. But the following few weeks, I was able to repeat this process every day, basically. And every day I went through a similar reaction, but with time, this reaction was getting less and less and less. So with this reaction, I mean this dramatic, immediate reaction after the drinking ozonated water. But each day I would have this positive boost of energy and this feeling of basically functioning again. So what was it? What did the ozone do? Why was this such an immediate and such a drastic effect? Now again, I don't know exactly, but I speculate that it helped detox my liver. And that it probably helped detox the liver from vitamin A. So I probably ate too many high vitamin A foods. I remember back then I was eating a lot of carrots, and carrots contain a lot of beta-carotenes. And this can be pretty hard on the liver. So I assume that this, and probably there was some impairment of my bile ducts and liver ducts so that they could not detox properly. and there was possibly some inflammation in that area. So maybe there was a backflow of bile, some cholestasis was going on there possibly. So I suspect that the ozone water basically helped purge my liver. So it either opened up my bile ducts by maybe removing the inflammation, or maybe ozonated water has some direct, ozone in general has maybe some direct effect on vitamin A, so that it helps basically push out the toxin out of the liver. I don't know, I'm not sure, but it was one of the most incredible experiences I had in my life. So no ozone IV, and again, I have done hundreds of them in my life, has ever produced such a dramatic, such a positive effect like drinking ozonated water. Another example I had was with vaginal insufflations. So vaginal insufflations in one occasion knocked out a beginning cold or flu. Now this was 5 or 6 years ago, so this is nothing to do with the current situation. So just a disclaimer so that I will not be purged for espousing some thought crimes. So I remember it was a dark, cold winter night. I came home and I felt sick. I must have been exposed to some cold, or maybe I caught something from someone, I don't know. So I remember I came home and I felt fatigued, run down, and I felt like I started to develop a fever. So what I did, I unpacked my ozone equipment, I hooked up a catheter and started doing vaginal insufflations, so continuous vaginal insufflations. So basically the type where the ozone basically flows into your vagina in a continuous fashion. And so I did that for a total of 15 or 20 minutes maybe, but already after 10 minutes, so already during the vaginal insufflations, I felt the fatigue vanish. I felt the beginning of the fever just dissolve completely, and I felt well. I felt good again. I did not feel any sickness. I didn't feel like I had the cold or the flu, and I never developed any such symptoms. So all it took were those 10 minutes of vaginal insufflations. And here's the interesting part. So a few years ago, Dr. Rowan posted on his social media, he posted something saying that he very often, when he has patients at his office who come in because of a flu or a cold, so he often administers the TANPAS treatment on them. So the TANPAS treatment, this is a quite intensive intravenous ozone treatment where up to 2 liters of blood are withdrawn, collected in a glass bottle, then mixed with ozone inside the glass bottle, stirred, and then reinfused. And this is performed basically 10 times, hence the treatment is called TANPAS treatment. And so he says that he very often has patients who have symptoms of a flu or a cold. They sit down in his chair, receive the TANPAS treatment, and by the time the TANPAS treatment is done, their symptoms are gone. So they get up from the chair and they feel well again. So their health is restored. So within the time of the TANPAS treatment, they lose all the symptoms. So the whole reason why they came in to see him within an hour and a half is gone. Now here's the thing, a TANPAS treatment costs between $1,000 or $1,200. So correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that this is the current price, or this is the price that I've known, like $1,200. Maybe it's a little less, maybe it's a little more in the meantime. If you have the current price, then please comment in the comment section. So here's the thing, for $1,200 you can buy a whole ozone equipment of your own, and you can do unlimited amounts of home ozone treatments. And what Dr. Rowan, what he says that he witnessed during TANPAS treatments, after an hour of doing the TANPAS treatment, because this is how long it takes, between an hour and a half. So this is something that I achieved with just 10 minutes of vaginal insufflations. And here's the thing, since I have my own ozone equipment, I can do unlimited amounts of vaginal insufflations. So for the price of one TANPAS treatment, more or less, of one TANPAS treatment, I can have unlimited amounts of home ozone treatments like vaginal insufflations. And I can achieve the same result. I can. Again, there is no guarantee. There, different people will react differently. It also depends what you're treating, how you're treating, what ozone concentration you use, how sensitive you are, and so on and so forth. But you can achieve often the same results that you see with intravenous methods. All right, another example. So years ago, I was working as a bartender in New York City. It was the best time of my life. And one day I lifted a heavy crate full with liquor bottles, and something snapped in my back. So I went to the manager and told him what happened and said, look, I have to take the time off. I have to take the shift off because I just cannot work. The pain is so bad. And so he sent me home, but instead of going home, I actually went across the street to my friend's spa. So back then it was called La Casa de Spa, something similar, and still exists from what I understand with a slightly different name. It's Jane Goldberg is the owner of the spa. And so back then she had a hard shell ozone sauna at her spa. And so this is what I did. So I went to the spa and did like a half an hour ozone sauna session. And after I stepped out of the ozone sauna, the pain in my back was better by, I would say, 50%. 50%. So then I went home, and then the next day I was scheduled to work. I think my shift started at 11 a.m. So again, before my shift started, I went again to her spa and did another ozone session in the morning. And after the second sauna, the pain in my back was down by 90%. So after that, I was able to go to work and start my shift normally. And well, there was still a little bit of pain, but just minor, but I could finish the shift without any major problems. So the interesting thing here is that, conventional medicine tells you that if you injure yourself, if you, for example, sprain your ankle or sprain your knee or something, that you're supposed to immediately put some ice on it, right? But I did exactly the opposite. I actually put some heat on it because I stepped into the sauna. So it was heat and ozone, and this resolved the problem and the pain better and faster than anything that conventional medicine would have suggested and would have offered. And I believe that this also helped better, the ozone sauna helped better than, for example, an ozone IV would have helped in that situation. Besides my personal stories, there are countless other stories from people who have contacted me over the years, or who have commented in the Facebook group, or who have commented in the comment section on my website. So let me read some of them to you. Here is a woman who says that breathing ozonated olive oil, so you can bubble ozone through olive oil and then you can breathe it in. And so a woman says that she did this to her son, who was suffering mild seizures several years ago. She says, I had him breathe it through olive oil 3 times a day, started at 5 minutes each time and worked out to 10 minutes. Did this for a month. No more seizures. This protocol was recommended to me from a chiropractor that uses ozone. So again, this is another example of the power of simple, non-invasive home ozone treatments. Then Jody here says that she had a patient who was diagnosed with ureaplasma. So this was a vaginal infection, and so she was dealing with this for approximately a year. She took antibiotics, used natural homeopathic antibiotics, and tried many different methods. And then as a last resort, the absolutely last option, ozone vaginal insufflations were tried. So they used a PromoLife machine. They used an ozone concentration of 50 micrograms per milliliter. She says, Gamma, I prefer to use micrograms per milliliter. She did that for 12 minutes, and only after this one treatment of 10 minutes, the patient was symptom-free, and she remained symptom-free for months afterwards. One vaginal insufflation. No poking, no anticoagulants necessary, no doctor present necessary, no nurse, nothing. Nothing goes into the blood, there's no vein poking, nothing. Just simple, non-invasive vaginal insufflations. Then there is Brian. I interviewed Brian already a number of years ago. I believe it's been now 6 years. And so he says that he keeps his multiple sclerosis symptoms under control with rectal insufflations. And I believe it was last year that I checked back with Brian and asked for an update, and he says that he's still doing the rectal insufflations and it still works. So he still successfully manages multiple sclerosis symptoms by doing rectal ozone insufflations. Then here's Michael. He allowed me to share his story where he says that he successfully treated benign prostate hyperplasia with rectal insufflations. So he does them 5 to 6 times a week at a concentration of 40 micrograms per milliliter at an amount of 300 milliliters. And he says the size was checked by urologist before and after. I had the BPH for 10 years and I felt relief in 3 weeks of doing rectal insufflations. And then another person treats Lyme, Bartonella, and severe POTS. And the interesting thing here is that she used to do ozone IVs for a long time, and they were great. They helped her immensely. They helped her very much with the symptoms. But unfortunately, she had to stop the ozone IVs because they destroyed her veins. So what did she do? She switched to ozone saunas instead. And she says, I get every bit as much benefit from doing ozone saunas as I did with IV ozone. There you have it. That's the answer. Are home ozone treatments as valuable, as powerful as ozone IVs? Well, you heard it from the horse's mouth. Yes, very often they can. Again, not every time, not for everyone, not for every condition, but very often you can achieve significant and positive and great results by doing home ozone treatments. So here another person was treating a baby who had brain damage because of hypoxia, so lack of oxygen. So that baby was 1 year old and they did ear ozone insufflations. And the result was it has given him the ability to make sounds, respond to communication with sounds, grasp toys, have more muscle control, make eye contact, take away glazed looking eyes, and just made him go from what seemed unaware of his surroundings to being pretty aware. So a simple, non-invasive home ozone treatment like ear insufflation was able to reverse some brain damage because of hypoxia. So another case here, now this is one of many such cases, but it constitutes a thought crime. But you can talk about this about it as long as you talk about personal experience. So this is what I'm saying here. So I'm just relaying a personal experience of a person. Otherwise, you're not allowed to say that anything other than chemotherapy, radiation, or surgery can be successful in treating cancer, right? This is when you say this, when you insinuate such a thing, you will be purged, you will be prosecuted, like terrible things can happen to you. But as long as you just talk about your personal experience, that's fine. And so this is what Jeff here does. He just shared his personal experience. So he said that he had a tumor on his voice box, and what he did was ozone ear insufflations at home, and he did them for about 2 years. And he says the ozone shrunk the tumor as well as my huge swollen lymph nodes in the neck. Also, an unexpected benefit of it completely drying out the fluid in my lungs by killing all the bacteria in the phlegm that I've struggled breathing with for 2 to 3 years because of fluid around the heart and in lungs 24/7, now gone. Now this is truly amazing because he was not dealing only with one serious problem, namely the tumor in his voice box, but also with a fluid in his lungs that was infected. And all he did were non-invasive, simple home ozone treatments like ozone ear insufflations. Amazing. Now again, he probably also did many other things. This is typically what happens when people have a serious diagnosis like cancer, that they don't rely just on one approach, but they also do several other things. So it's never clear which one of the approaches was the decisive one. So, you know, I'm just saying, but there are many, many such stories. So here you have it. Do home ozone treatments really work? Yes, I believe that in many cases, home ozone treatment is really all you need. I am also a huge fan of intravenous treatments. I mean, after all, I wrote a book about it, all right? Also recommend very often that people do intravenous ozone treatment. But many times you don't have to. Many times all you need is really your own ozone lab. This is what I call ozone lab, your own ozone equipment at home. And you can save a lot of money. You're independent, you're prepared for the apocalypse, and you can have the same effects, if not even better effects, better results than intravenous ozone. Again, in some cases, for certain conditions, for certain stages of certain conditions. So the point is, don't discount home ozone treatments. Simply because they're cheaper, simply because they're easier to perform, simply because no doctor is necessary or a nurse is necessary to perform the treatments, does not mean that they are less powerful. And as it so happens, I actually wrote a book about it. I wrote a book about how to do home ozone treatments. So this is like the ultimate guide, and it doesn't matter what brand of ozone generator you have, whether PromoLife, Simply O3, Longevity, they're all covered in that book. And so you will learn everything from the start. So what ozone equipment you need, how to assemble it, which settings to use for which conditions, which ozone concentrations, how often to do it, what to expect after the ozone treatment, how to deal with the Herxheimer reactions, what to do to really get the most out of the ozone treatments, and many, many more. So go to my website and check it out. Thank you very much for listening. Keep it pink and go eat a steak. See ya.